Alright, so lately we've been talking about solving one and two-step equations as well as simplifying the algebraic expressions, so combining like terms and things like that. Alright, so today what we're going to do is we're going to talk about solving multi-step equations. So basically what that means is that they're going to be more than two steps, alright, three or more. And they're going to require you to use both the skills you learned while learning the one and two step equations as well as the combining like terms. Alright, so there are 4 steps you can go through while you're solving these multi-step equations. The first is if there's a distributive property in your equation, do that first. Okay? Always do that first. Not all multi-step equations have the distributive property, but if they do, then you do number 1. If they do not, you go on to number 2. You're going to add your like terms, okay? Add or subtract your like terms. So that means if we have 3x plus 5x plus 2 equals 10, you're going to combine those like terms first, those x's and those numbers, okay? You want to get rid of any numbers that are by themselves, okay? So going back to that same idea, if you have 2x plus 3x plus 2 equals 10, okay? Your first step would be to combine the, we don't have distributive property, so we're going to skip that. We're then going to add our like terms, so we have 5x plus 2 equals equals 10, okay? Now, what they mean by getting rid of any numbers by themselves, they mean the 2 and the 10. You want to combine those. So in this case, we would move the 2 over here, and we would then end up with 5x equals 8, because since we're adding 2 to this side, we have to subtract, do the inverse operation. 10 minus 2 is 8. Okay? Alright, and then number 4, we want to get rid of the number by the letter. So in this case, that would be the coefficient, the number 5 here. Okay? So in order to get rid of the number with the letter, we would divide it. Okay? So let's do some examples. The first example we have is 7x minus 3x minus 8 equals 24. So immediately we can see there is no distributive property. So we're going to move straight on to step number 2. Step number 2 says to add the like terms. So in this case, we're going to do 7x minus 3x because these are my like terms. And that would be 4x. Then I bring down the minus 8, and it equals 24. Okay. All right, now it says to get rid of any numbers that are by themselves. So I'm going to add 8. We don't want lonely numbers. I'm going to add 8. And now think about the reason why I'm adding. Okay. All right, so sorry about my phone. We will continue with solving this. So we added 8 to both sides because the inverse operation of subtracting 8 is to add it. So we would have 4x equals 32. All right, and then the last step in our multi-step equations would be to get rid of the coefficient or the number that's with the variable. In this case, it would be the 4, and because they are being multiplied right now, we're going to divide it over. All right, and 32 divided by 4 means that x is going to equal 8. All right. Okay, so we're going to skip up here to this particular question. Um, Alright, so we have 3x minus x plus 15 equals 41. So our first step is to combine our like terms. So 3x minus x is 2x, because there's that invisible 1 right here. Okay, plus 15 equals 41. Okay, and now this should look like a normal two-step equation. So we're going to subtract 15 because we don't want any numbers by themselves. And 2x equals 41 minus 15 is 36. Or wait, sorry, not 36, 26. Oof. And divide by 2, divide by 2, and 26 divided by 2 is going to equal 13. Okay? All right. Okay, so we're gonna take a look at these problems right here. So in this case, these problems, if you have not figured it out, have the distributive property in them. So the first thing we're gonna do before we even deal with the equation part is we're gonna get rid of this distributive property. So in this case, we have 3 times x plus 4. So we're gonna 5x stays the same. Okay, and we're gonna say plus 3 times x, which is 3x, and 3 times 4, which is 12, and that's going to equal 28. Okay, so 5x plus 3x is 8x, plus 12 equals 28. I'm going to subtract 12 and subtract 12, and 8x is going to equal 16. Divide by 8, divide by 8, because we want to get rid of the coefficient or the number with the letter, and that will equal 2. So x is going to equal 2. Okay? Alright, now, one thing I really want to stress with everyone is that the reason I write the problem out the way I do is because it is very organized. You can tell where you are, where you made your mistakes if you need to go back and check them. Also, it keeps your thoughts organized. If you try and do one thing way over on this side of the paper and then do another problem over here, okay, it's going to get very confusing very quickly. As you can see, the problem already takes a lot of steps, so we want to make sure that we are following those specific steps as we go through. Okay? All right. So, I know you guys are probably looking at this one with the fraction down here, and I know that fractions can get a little scary. So I am going to go through, and we're just gonna do this one right here. So in this case, we have a distributive property again. Okay. So I have 12 equals 3 over 10 times x plus 2. So our 12 stays the same. And we're going to multiply. So 3 over 10x, okay, plus 3 tenths times 2 is 6 tenths, okay. All right, now we know that from here we're going to have to subtract the 6/10 from both sides. Now, if you remember back to fractions, okay, we need to find a common denominator, okay? So in this case, we have 12 minus 6/10. Um, so we still have 3 over 10 equals, x equals, and 12 minus 6/10 is, um, we have to find a common denominator. So our common denominator in this point can just be 10. So our problem would actually become 120 over 10 minus 6/10, and 120 over 10 minus 6/10 is going to be 114 tenths. Okay. Now, this should look very familiar. In this case, we have 114 tenths equals 3 tenths. And if you recall, the relationship between 3 tenths and x is that you are multiplying. So we would want to divide, which in fractions is multiplying by the reciprocal. So we're going to multiply by 10 thirds and multiply by 10 thirds. Tens go away, and we are just left with 114 over 3. All right, 114 over 3. And as some of you may have figured out, 114 divided by 3 is 38. Okay, so that is what I have today for multi-step equations. I know I threw a lot at you. The main key in solving these is just to stay organized and follow the